Kelly, and this is Hudson Valley Art Speak. And tonight we're going to be talking to Joan Daidone, who is, she does a lot of things. She has been a creative director, an artist rep, a writer. She has worked for nonprofit organizations in the corporate world, and just it seems to be the list is endless, Joan, of things that you can do.
Well, I've always seen it as what I do to make a living, which was as a creative director in advertising for a lot of major companies as well as nonprofits, and then what I do for love, which is writing and representing artists and advocating for the arts.
Are you representing artists right now? Do you have a number of people that you're working with?
Yes, there's several artists I work with right now. Rosalind Schneider, who is a Hudson Valley artist and has been working in the arts since the 60s. She was an experimental filmmaker, video artist, was one of the really early experimental video artists, also a painter. She's actually going to be having a show soon in Chelsea at the H.P. Garcia Gallery. But I met her, it's actually a good story, when I was 19. I was an intern for an International Festival of Women Filmmakers at a time when women weren't in the New York Film Festival.
Right, right.
So we had our own show of 200 women filmmakers across the street. And she was one of the filmmakers. So I met her at the time, and she was already mid-career, and I was 19.
You were just a kid.
I was just a kid, and I was basically involved in promotion. And then we didn't see each other for years, and then I started a gallery about 5 years ago, the Elisa Tucci Contemporary Arts Gallery, and she was one of the first people I contacted.
Really?
Because she wasn't being represented by a major gallery at that point, and I thought she wasn't getting the recognition she should. I mean, she's really a major artist. So she was delighted, and she helped put me in touch with other mid-career artists, like Elaine Galen, who is another artist. She lives in Mount Kisco, and also she's in major museums, and you know, a very accomplished artist. But once again, she wasn't part of one of the scenes, and so she has not gotten, particularly lately, the kind of recognition she deserves. So it was those kinds of artists that I felt I wanted to represent.
Yeah, you know, sometimes I feel very strongly that it's not necessarily the people who are producing great art that get to in the galleries and everything. It's the people that can represent themselves in you know, that can do self-promotion. And
I think it's a lot of the artists, like, I don't want to be putting any artists down, but you know, people like a Jeff Koons or those kinds of artists who are great self-promoters. I mean, actually, Andy Warhol was a great self-promoter. Nothing wrong with that, but there are a lot of artists who are just, you know, great at that. But most artists, the majority of artists, are not good at self-promotion at all. I mean, they want to be in their studios and they want to be creating. They don't want to be out selling their work.
Right.
And as far as for me, I mean, my background is in promotion. I mean, and I did it for major companies. And I got to a point where I said, I mean, I want to market, you know, things I love, which is art, and nonprofit organizations that I really care about. So that's sort of, I said, well, I have these talents. I mean, I've written commercials and radio spots and did major, global campaigns. I said, if I could use that energy and those skills to, promote artists that I really feel are being underrepresented and not getting the kind of exposure that they deserve.
Now, you mentioned nonprofit organizations. You're very deeply involved with a nonprofit in Guatemala, aren't you?
Yeah. Niños del Lago. It's an educational and creative camp for indigenous children. So basically the most vulnerable, disadvantaged children that, really don't have any opportunity and don't really have a chance to even dream of what, their potential might be. And this camp is really a mentoring camp where kids can go year after year and be working with Latin American university students, and different types of mentors, and over the course of years can earn a scholarship to either a vocational school or to university. It's a very ambitious project, but it was started by a friend of mine, and we basically started with 8 acres of land in a forest overlooking Lake Atitlan in Guatemala. And we're about 75% done right now.
Really?
And it's all from individual volunteers and, you know, small donors contributing $10 a month. I mean, it's that type, and a few grants, obviously.
Right. So you've been doing a lot of fundraising
Yeah, it's
for
a lot
them
of
and grant
fundraising.
writing?
Yeah. I've been since 2006. You know.
And is the school built, or is it in process?
It's in process. All the cabins for the children are built. All the roads, the septic system, the water wells, and electrical, you know, all the infrastructure. There's one last building, which is sort of an administration building, which will have cafeterias and library and activities room, and that's the last piece before we can open. We're scheduled to open next year.
Well, it sounds like it's really something that could profoundly change a child's life for the
definitely.
better.
I mean, I think it'll be a model program for the rest of Central America. There's nothing like it in Central America. I am involved in Fresh Air Fund here in the U.S. My husband and I have hosted, you know, several boys over the years, and it's something that's kind of really, I'm very close. I really believe in the power of mentoring, and particularly the power of getting children as well as, you know, adults who may not think they have creative potential to really find themselves through creative work. And I've seen how it can change the life of whether it's a child who is traumatized in some way, or even mentally, you know, someone who suffers from mental illness. I mean, I believe in the power of art to transform and change someone's life. And that's really been, I guess, my focus as an arts advocate, and working with, you know, both artists and in terms of arts education.
Well, what would you look for in an artist that you might be thinking about representing? Do you just need to be blown away by what they do, or just, you know, feel an excitement in it?
I mean, of course, if I see a work of art that really moves me, you know, viscerally, you know, I feel something. Or it makes me think differently or see the world in a different way. I also look for artists who really have a singular vision where no one else could have created that piece. They have a way of looking at, say, landscape, or a way of looking at whatever it might be in a unique way, a way that nobody else sees. And that's what really excites me. Or they're working with materials in a new way. You know, whether it be, you know, there's an artist who's actually going to be part of the Artie Studio Tour, Henry Klimowitz, who works with corrugated, you know, cardboard.
Yes, I've seen his work. Yeah.
I mean, it's very interesting. He's an installation artist, but he, you know, he basically turns, you know, trash into, you know, beautiful environments. So it's that kind of work that really excites me and that I'm drawn to. With Rosalind's work, is her work here? Yes, that's one of her works.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And basically, she starts with a still from a video, and then she layers acrylic paint, pen and ink, resin, and then glass beads. So it's a very unusual technique. So she's really found a way to reinterpret the landscape. I mean, there are a lot of landscape painters and artists. I mean,
thousands and
thousands,
hundreds of thousands.
And there's some very beautiful work, but a lot of it is very representational, and a lot of people could have done that painting.
Right.
You know, it's not that there's not a lot of craft and skill, but it's not. a unique way of looking at landscape. And for me, Rosalind has a way of looking at landscape that no other artist is doing it in the way she is.
Yeah, yeah. And what about this work right here?
This is actually another one of Rosalind's work.
Is it really?
In a whole different, they're digital images, but they're 4 separate images that she put together, 4 different views of a scene in Yellowstone Park. So, and if you look closely, it's more than a photograph. There's pen and ink, and then they're hand colored.
Now, is that what the black on it is pen and ink?
Pen and ink,
it's funny because I find it reminiscent of the lines in the painting above it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is much earlier than that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're working, well, I'm saying it like I don't know. You're working on the Artist Open Studio Tour. We've worked together now for 3 years on the Open Studio Tour, and it's you have certainly brought a different level of professionalism to it, and I have to say I've certainly learned a lot from you, which has been great. But what do you see about the Open Studio Tour that draws you to do that?
Well, for me, when I had my gallery, for me it's all about bringing the community, bringing artists and the community together. I always had a problem with sort of these white-walled, galleries where people, the average person who's not comfortable with art, who's not a collector or not someone who normally goes to, galleries, is intimidated.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are intimidated because they feel like they don't know what they're looking at, or they don't know how to, they don't know how to see the art. They don't know. And I think by doing something like Artist Studio Tours, it makes the artist and the art very accessible. And it really creates a dialogue between, the artist and the visitors.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important because the arts are funding for the arts are being cut all over, and without people, the community really understanding what art brings to their community and what it brings to their children, and the impact that art can have on our everyday lives, and a way of just seeing life in a different way.
In a different way, yeah. And you know what? We're going to have to leave it at that. So you can learn more about Joan on her page at arteastduchess.com and get in touch with her through there. So thanks, Joan, for being here tonight and giving us a little bit more insight on what you do. And
I'm looking forward to the tour.
Great, great. Great, thank you.
Save the world with just a